Came from the cars, but in the clouds I saw a speck of red. And if there's life on Mars, are they gonna have to learn to ask if there's still life on Earth? Oh, 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 oh. There's a man that's on the moon who just re-upped his lease till June, 'cause he can see the smoke from where he is. And he's trying to make himself believe that everything down there's still green, and the good in people still exist. We may have to fill it.
All right, I see people are already leaving because they probably just think it's a fucking, they're on hold on a, on a call of some sorts. So I think that could have went a little bit better. They like addressed some stuff, obviously like it doesn't exist on Android right now. So like, yeah, obviously they're going to need to address that. But like, I don't know. I have a doc open right now that I am basically going to collect all my thoughts about like sort of feature requests. And then I'm just going to copy and paste it and DM it to them and also tweet it publicly so everyone can see like what I think they should add to this, because it just like it's in beta. I understand that. It just like, I don't know. They're like, oh, we're gonna do discoverability, and that's great, but like what is that gonna look like? It would also made me wonder like when this rolls out, what's up, AJ? When this rolls out further and everyone can create a Twitter space, this is just going to sort of hog the fleets bar up top. And does that mean that like fleets are just going to get pushed to the right and then all you're going to see are purple bubbles? Like, it just feels like, a lot of, I guess, like my sort of questions and concerns of like, from a sort of deep product specific, functionality, that kind of stuff, that none of that stuff was addressed. So I guess like, oh my God, Kayvon is in here. Kayvon, if you want to speak, by all means, jump up here. But I guess like for me, using this whatever 5, 6, 7 times as a host, and then joining the other half a dozen times as a listener, there's just things that feel blatantly obvious that should be added that just like weren't really addressed. And like, again, I know that Twitter has a lot of smart engineers working at the company, and they've probably thought a lot about this stuff, and they want to address the sort of like very top level, like obvious things that like, yes, this is coming to Android. Like, we are aware that this doesn't exist on iPad, blah, blah, blah. So, from my perspective, I guess I can kind of just like, oh, hi, Kayvon, you're up here now.
Hi, Sam.
I first of all, Kayvon, I appreciate you guys doing that, and I know I feel like when I talk about a product, I feel like I'm kind of being an asshole, but again, like I genuinely enjoy this. I love Twitter. Like, I'm rooting for you guys, and like the reason why I might come off like I'm, being a dick. It's just, I'm super passionate about this stuff, and I just want you guys to succeed. And I want this to be, the best platform that it can be. And obviously, like, my sort of feature requests are, very specific for the kind of things that I want. And, there's all these different users. But I appreciate you guys, more or less building in public. Like I was saying before in the space that I was hosting prior to the town hall, like you guys, like it feels like you're the only, big tech company that is so deliberate about building in public. And as like, I've been on Twitter for over a decade. And it seems like in the last, only like 4 or 5 years has there been this shift of like, when Jack does his tweet storm about like, banning Trump and that kind of thing. Like, I just like, to see the human beings that are, sort of like the cogs in the machine being very honest and transparent with its users. It's like, it's great to see. So
Are
Yeah.
you saying I'm a cog in the machine, Sam?
I mean, dude, you are definitely like if Twitter was a, a cybernetic being, you definitely are some sort of, lobe in the brain. Like if you weren't at Twitter, Kayvon, I don't know that Twitter would be, what it is today. Cuz like you did your part in terms of like bringing Periscope, to the table, and now it seems like you're doing, I don't really even know what you do anymore. You're just, head of product at Twitter, but I I I am glad that there's a smart person like you at the helm that is like one of the humans in the in the Slack channels or in the business meetings that are making these decisions. Because like I feel like a lot of these sometimes the people that have to make these decisions are just driven by like the bottom line and the margins where like you're a guy that builds products. You understand what users want from like a product perspective. So, as much of a cog as you are, Kayvon, like you also contribute in meaningful ways. And I mean that honestly.
I just want to commend you for the jujitsu that you just did, because you went from like the meanest thing you've ever said to me, Sam, to the nicest thing. So thank you.
I don't
But
mean when I say a cog in the machine, like even working at The Verge, like we are all sort of like I guess that definitely does have negative connotation, but I more meant like you are an integral part of the machine that is Twitter.
I'm just giving you a hard time. First of all, I just want to be very clear. I appreciate all the nice things you just said, but this takes a village. There's a lot of really smart people who really, really give a shit about evolving Twitter
Hmm.
and making the product better for our customers. Again, I appreciate all the nice things, but we're all working really hard to pick up the pace and to solve more interesting and meaningful problems that a lot of people who've been using Twitter for many, many years have been asking us to solve and haven't really seen as much movement as they would have liked. And the truth is, we've just been slow over the years, and we're very intentionally trying to change that. Hopefully, y'all have been noticing. So that's one of the reasons why we are also being intentional about building in public. Is Twitter's kind of heart and soul has always come from there, right? Like some of the most meaningful parts of Twitter have come from our customers, like the retweet, the hashtag, the app mention. These are all invented by people using the product who kind of like hacked it together. And then we at the company kind of like recognized that and turned it into a easier to use feature rather than this like thing you have to hack together. And so I think it's always been part of our DNA, but we're just trying to put that on overdrive more and use the product to talk about our work and to get feedback from our customers and incorporate it into everything we do.
And I appreciate it. Kayvon, I wanted to mention a just very again, I feel like the bugs that me as Sam Sheffer runs into are extremely fucking random and just like one in a million. But I can join this space from another phone, and yeah, I feel like that shouldn't be a thing, or I don't know if you guys have thought about that yet, because like in Snapchat, if you log in to Snapchat from another device, it automatically boots you out. So like I have an old iPhone here and I can go into the Twitter space and like I don't see myself on the other phone, but like I can end the space from there. I can like promote speakers. So just like a really weird edge case that I wanted to put on your radar.
Yeah, I haven't tried that one personally. I'm sure it's on the team's radar, and just we haven't prioritized it. I will say, like my gut reaction is that that's not actually necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes you can use that fact to actually have a second device specifically for moderation.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of like having two iPhones, it makes less sense. But if you think about it in the context of like you're using spaces on the web while also hosting from your iPhone, like it starts to make a little bit more sense. But there are still just a bunch of weird edge cases and bugs because we're in beta still. So a lot of that stuff will get ironed out. A lot of it will just get featureized in a way that just feels a little bit less janky and more purposeful. So yeah.
I see. Kayvon, how do you solve for, and I think you were in here when I was saying this, how do you solve for when Spaces rolls out for more users and fleets just get pushed to the right. Like, how do you solve for discoverability there? Like, obviously you have plans to have spaces discovered in some other way besides seeing them in the fleet bar. But if you can, speak to that at all, I'd be curious to hear.
Yeah, discovery is one of the most important and gnarly problems to get right, because there's so like people come to Twitter, um, and they have people have very different expectations and needs around what is most relevant for them at that time. So that's a really important thing for us to get right, both in terms of not distracting people with junk they don't want to see, but also making sure that if something is happening that's very relevant, we're surfacing it to them. Right now, like we have the simplest possible starting point, which is we use fleets because it's a very sensible surface area to kind of prominently show when someone you follow is live in a space. So that's one thing that we have, and then we have tweets as an obvious discovery method where oftentimes listeners in a space are actually tweeting about like, hey, Sam Sheffer's hosting this space. He's talking to Kayvon and AJ about random stuff, including spaces. And that is an important source of tune-in that kind of piggybacks on how Twitter has always worked with the timeline and tweets. There's a bunch more that we are exploring in terms of new vectors for discovery, whether that's notifications or search or the explore tab or a new dedicated tab. Like we're going wide with our explorations, and we'll figure out the top set that we think are going to be really valuable. On top of that, there of the existing surface areas, whether it's the timeline or whether it's the fleet line, there's work that we have to do to make sure we leverage those areas, let's say, efficiently. Like you pointed out one, right? Like if 80 people that you follow are live in a space, which is unlikely, but let's say it happens, the fleet line would get overwhelming, to your point, right? You'd have like a bunch of purple bubbles and you'd have to scroll past 80 things before you saw other fleets. That is a solvable problem through relevance, through having overflow menus, through just getting better with ranking. And so we're definitely aware of it. We haven't prioritized it super high in the last few weeks because it's just not a real problem right now, right? Like the average number of concurrent spaces is, at most single digits for the vast majority of people, 0 because we're in beta. But we'll totally get there. Likewise, an interesting problem is it's great that people can tweet about spaces, but it doesn't do you much good to run into those tweets once the space is over. You see this sort of big old card that says this space has ended, which is very useful. So we're totally aware of that. We're working on solving that. We're also trying to get smarter about boosting the prominence of tweets that are about spaces that are live right now, because like that live state is really important. So there's lots of things that we're aware of, that we're prioritizing, and just trying to be diligent around like what we land first. Right now, like the most important things that we're focused on are in the actual spaces experience, both for speakers and for listeners. When you're in the space, how do we make that experience feel delightful? How do we make speakers have all the controls and capabilities to actually manage this space? Like already you and I are using very different products, right? Like you see only like 20 people in this room, even though there are far more people. The version of the app that I'm using, like I see every single person in this room, and it's awesome. I see people I went to school with. I see people I work with at Twitter. I see people who are your followers. Like that's a total game changer. And there's a bunch more in that vein that is sort of the top of our minds right now that we're going to land in the next few weeks.
That's what I figured. And this is what I sort of like, I feel guilty, like being so harsh with my criticisms. And I've said this in like all of my spaces, like this is in beta. And I am certain that like, yeah, no shit. Twitter knows like everything that is, not included in this. And I like part of me feels bad for like, just being so, I guess, honest with my feedback when I know that like, if I just wait a week, it's probably going to be fixed, And then also going back to what you were saying before, Kayvon, I can't imagine the challenge like you and the team have, building such a transformative, sorry, that's my Discord notifications, building such a transformative feature into an app, that's used by tens of millions of people. And we're all so accustomed to like, remember how much, backlash there was when, Twitter changed the it was used to be favorites, then it changed to likes, so like I can't imagine, like you were saying before, there's only a certain amount of real estate in this app. Like when Instagram changed the plus in the middle to the fucking whatever, the reels button, there was like massive freak out, and like a lot of people really didn't like that, and then they kind of just like deal with it. So this is, going back to my point before of like, I am glad, and I've said this a zillion times, Twitter is my favorite social network to date. I am glad that there are people like you building this that actually, use Twitter and understand the needs and the wants of some people. Like if you guys were to just put another, a button in the bottom tab, home, search, notifications, and DMs, like that would cause massive freak out. You have to be extremely methodical when you're building something that's going to be affecting literally tens of millions of people. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Kayvon, can you talk about any moderation stuff that you guys are working on? Because right now it's just me as a host, and then like if we're mutuals, you can kind of come up and speak. But obviously, Clubhouse has the little green dot that says moderator. What can you talk about there?
So I will totally answer that question, but I want to react to some of the stuff you said, because there's some gems in there, and I don't want them to go unrecognized. So first of all, don't feel guilty for pushing us. One of the things that motivates us the most is that people actually give a shit about this product, and I don't mean just Spaces, I mean Twitter. So every compliment, every critique, every vent is both extremely useful and very motivational for us. Like I watched every minute of your YouTube video that you dropped, and I'm sure a bunch of the team did as well. So that's like item number one, don't apologize. Item number two, what you describe about Twitter in that like our customers have lots of opinions, and there's the reaction to a lot of the things that we ship is oftentimes polarizing, is I believe truly one of the biggest gifts of working on this product. It can be incredibly stressful, but it's also just an immense gift, right? Like if only anyone who works on building a product had the gift of being able to have, close to 200 million people daily give feedback on whether they love it or hate it. Like that is, as stressful as that might be, that is an insane gift that frankly, like we can never take for granted. And so I think it's tremendously valuable for us. So that's one sort of thing. The other is, I have a theory for why in particular the most modest of changes historically to the Twitter product have been so polarizing, and that's that our customers just haven't been accustomed to us shipping much. And so of course, if you don't change the product very often, like even the most minor changes, like changing the fave to a heart, can spark a lot of conversation. And sometimes the changes are genuinely, polarizing. Like, we made a change last year around not directing people to retweets, right? Like when you tap the retweet icon, it took tweets, which on one hand is quite subtle, because like it's not like we took the retweet away. You just have to, it's just.
But dude, there were Verge articles written about it, right? Like it made waves.
Totally, and I think so. Like that will still happen, but I do believe, and we've already noticed that as our customers see us being willing to take risks and take bigger steps and take swings that are speculative. Like we don't even necessarily know if it'll work. We have conviction that it's an important problem to solve, and we think that solution X is the right solution. But I think as customers see any product or team take bigger swings, the next swing will be like that much less polarizing, because it's just expected that of course the team is going to try and evolve the product. So I think I hope that over time, that dynamic changes a little bit, but we still kind of retain the gift of, a large fire hose of feedback coming from our customers every day. It just helps us learn way faster. So I wanted to say all of that to answer your question around moderation. Yes, is the short answer. Like, there's a ton that we can do here right now. Much of the moderation capability is limited to the host. You can kick people out of the room. You can elevate people, but it's kind of like limited to that right now. And there's so much more we're doing. I think Esther and Danny in the last space that we were hosting mentioned that in probably 2 weeks' time, the host will be able to mute speakers, which is super helpful, not even just for the sake of sort of safety and health, but sometimes like new speakers join and they don't realize they're unmuted and they've got like a dog barking in the background or TV on or whatever. And it's just like way easier to let the host be able to mute, letting the host be able to demote people from speakers to listeners. Right now, the only way you can do that is like literally kicking them out of the room, which is a pretty heavy hammer. And then also letting the host designate other admins. So maybe you want me or AJ to have sort of moderation capabilities, or Anil is in here, or Jonah's in here. You might want to delegate it out to a trusted set of people who can just help you focus on facilitating the conversation and less about the mechanics of who to let in, when to demote, who to mute. So that's totally something that is on our radar and not like rocket science, right? Like behind the scenes, a lot of this stuff is like exists already because a lot of it's leveraging the Periscope infrastructure. And like we have all these features already. We just need to reskin them and provide new UIs that make sense in the context of spaces.
And just so for everyone listening in here, Kayvon, can you just, talk about you and your history with Twitter and, like even going back to your Blackboard days? Like, I just want people in here to know who you are.
Wow. You just went deep, Sam. You want my life story? Is that what this is now?
I'm a huge proponent of providing context, and like for my, for the people that follow me and they're joining the space and they see Kayvon with a check mark, product lead at Twitter, like they don't really know who you are, and I want them to know who you are.
Thank you, Sam. That's so kind of you. So I lead consumer product at Twitter. I came to Twitter just over 6 years ago, after Twitter acquired a company that I co-founded called Periscope, the live video broadcasting app, which Sam and AJ know all too well because they were very early power users. What's up, AJ? Long time no talk. And yeah, so I've had a few sort of chapters of my time at Twitter. I was super focused on Periscope for probably 2 years while we were very independent. We were focused on Periscope as a separate app. We had our own separate office, culture, process. Like we were essentially a startup within Twitter. And then spent 2 years after that leading the sort of video products beyond just Periscope, the video products at Twitter. And then probably 2.5, 3 years ago at this point now, became the head of consumer product at Twitter. So had a few different chapters of my time at Twitter. And then prior to that, I co-founded a company with my childhood friend, Joe, who was also my co-founder at Periscope. We created a company that basically made mobile apps for universities. So we were the first education app on the App Store. We created an app for the school that I was going to at the time, Stanford. So we created an app called iStanford that let students basically interact with their university in all the ways they wanted to, whether it was registering for classes, checking their grades, checking the sports scores, all in one place, which seems kind of like obvious now, but at the time was pretty new. And so we ended up building that for thousands of universities, and our company got acquired by a big ed tech company called Blackboard and worked there for like 4 or 5 years. So that's my life story. Before that, I played a lot of video games and built computers and stuff.
Wait, you played games back in the day? Like what?
My biggest claim to fame was, you probably don't even know this game, Tribes 2.
Nope.
Oh man, you got to Google it, man. I got like a YouTube video and everything. It's got like 900 views on YouTube.
What the hell is this?
It's basically like a capture the flag type game. It's really, really awesome.
This was on PC?
Oh yeah, PC.
Oh my God, it came out in 2001. Wow.
Old school.
Wait, Kayvon, do you play games today? Are you a gamer at all still?
I dabble. I mean, I play. I just finished Last of Us Part 2. I played. I kind of did Last of Us Part 1 and 2 back to back. I was late to the party, but I just finished Last of Us Part 2 over the weekend actually. And then on PC, I dabble. Like I play Apex Legends every once in a while. Apex is like the closest thing to Tribes you can get these days. It's like totally different, obviously, but I'm a fan of FPS games as well. So I used to play a lot of Counter-Strike back in the early 2000s when I was in high school as well.
Have
And
you have you
then
tried have you tried Valorant?
no, I have not played Valorant.
Do you know what it is?
I mean, I've heard of it, but I've never played it. Is it? I'm googling it right now to remind myself.
It's like all of the former Counter-Strike pros are like having a moment resurgence right now because it's basically Counter-Strike, but there's like I think 15 different agents that all have different abilities. So it's like there's counter terrorists and then there's terrorists. You have to plant the spike, and then there's like I don't think it's as many rounds as Counter Strike. It's first to 13. Oh man, I mean, not to completely derail you from your day job, but man, if you want a really fucking nice, like the game mechanics, the shooting, like it's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Valorant as like a gamer, I would say. And if you like FPS, definitely worth your time for sure.
I'm gonna try me some Valorant this weekend. The other
It's
one, and this is a total left field one, but one of the games I've enjoyed playing the most in the last like 2 years is Factorio. Obviously, very different. Have you tried Factorio?
I've heard of it. Wow, it has really fucking high ratings. I'm just googling it now. I've only heard of it. Is it one of those? It's like the top-down thing, right? Like it's a top-down game.
I think I know what you mean by top down, but yes, it's basically like you're basically constructing a ever increasing in complexity factory with the ultimate goal of getting yourself all off this planet that you crash landed on. So it like starts with like, how do I mine ore and mine copper and like build a conveyor belt to like improve the efficiency of my mining operation so that I can build like a more functioning city that can produce the materials I need to ultimately, like many hours later, build a spaceship and get off this planet.
So the goal is to put in however many hours it takes you to get off the planet, and then you sort of win.
Yes.
So it's possible to win because it seems like that seems extremely fucking difficult.
Yeah. No, the game I think I actually haven't gotten to the quote unquote finish line, but you technically beat the game once you know, build the rocket that can get you off the planet. My
God.
favorite, and by the way, there's a great tweet here that we should find and share to the space if you all haven't seen it. Probably my favorite Elon Musk tweet of all time is him tweeting Factorio speed running, but in real life. Because like literally, this is like Elon playing
That's where I've
in
heard of
form.
this game from, was that Elon tweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it basically is. Kayvon, speaking of those pinned